Even if a person is not intoxicated or drugged, the police may occasionally stop them on suspicion of DEO. The police frequently take advantage of persons who are intoxicated and may even fabricate allegations in order to obtain an arrest. Is it true that the police are exempt from the law given the rise in unjustified arrests? Is it unrealistic to believe that the police will be made to answer for their actions? The first incident is about the time when Christina West was arrested for DUI, where the Tallahassee police may have used excessive force. West and 3 other international exchange students were leaving Panama City on the day of the event. Fortunately, no one was seriously harmed when the SUV driven by the 44-year-old lady crashed into an unoccupied house in Killer Estates. When Tallahassee police officers got there, though, the situation rapidly turned violent. West is shown agreeing to take a sobriety test in the on-scene video. When the officers ask her to, West is soon handcuffed and taken to a squad car, where he is put in the back. After being instructed to do so, she steps out of the police vehicle and begins to ask about her husband and kids. She defies the police's requests for her to be silent, and a battle ensues. 3 seconds later, there are 2 loud smacks that seem to be caused by her head striking the police cruiser. She yells, "Oh my God!" as one police officer restrains her and the other holds her head against the vehicle. State Attorney Willie Meggs described the footage as very disturbing. Injuries suffered by West during the arrest included a broken orbital bone, along with a swollen eye, a bloody nose, and cuts to her arms and legs. West was also treated for her injury. West was accused of driving under the influence and assaulting a police officer, until they started physically abusing her. Mrs. West interacted with these officers in a cooperative and polite manner, and she maintained her composure.
As they struggled to get their story straight towards the end of the video, you can hear these officers making up lies for their report.
With the assistance of her lawyer, Fred Conrad, West later filed a lawsuit against the city and the police department. They said that the police aggressively and harshly restrained her. In addition to fractures, facial nerve damage, visual impairment, and other injuries, the suit stated that West also suffers from a number of painful conditions. A Leon County grand jury determined that the police were in fact at blame for West's injuries. The jury did not request that they be charged or let go from the force, though. The policemen were cleared of using excessive force according to the department's internal investigation. In the end, a deal was reached between Christina West and the city of Tallahassee, and the city decided to give Christina $450,000. Fun fact, a man in New York City was unlawfully detained for 12 days after his name and birth date were incorrectly matched to those of a wanted felon due to a computer glitch. Until his family hired a lawyer and produced his fingerprints, he was not released, and the error was not corrected. Officer Nathan Winter's false accusation and unwarranted imprisonment of Tavon Galanakis have drawn criticism and stoked the fire of the continuing discussion. Following a traffic stop with 1.6 million YouTube views, Newton police were sued. College student Tavon Galanakis was wrongfully accused and arrested in August 2022, which generated a community uproar and raging internet debate. In August 2022, Officer Nathan Winters stopped the 19-year-old for utilizing his highlights while driving. The police was informed by Galanakis that one of his headlights was damaged, but the officer barely paid attention to him. The policeman started by asking him where he had been all night and if he was drunk. Galanaki constantly informed the police that he hadn't had any alcohol and that he was willing to take a test to prove it. The teenager allegedly smelled of alcohol when the police arrived, but when they finally gave him a breathalyzer test, he resulted in a 0. After being taken to the Newton police station, Galanakis agreed to a urine and drug test. According to the lawsuit, the tests were administered by the department's drug detection specialist, who determined Galanakis was not intoxicated or showing any signs of drug or alcohol use. Tavon Galanakis accuses the city and its police force of making erroneous arrests, violating civil rights, and failing to provide adequate supervision and training in a case filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Iowa. Matthew Bowles and Adam Wojtowski, the legal representatives for Galanakis, have filed a lawsuit against the City of Newton, Police Chief Rob Burtis, Officer Nathan Winters, and Lieutenant Christopher Wink. Shortly after Galanakis filed his lawsuit, the city counterclaimed, alleging that Galanakis had made false accusations against Winters and Wing, intentionally caused emotional distress, invaded their privacy, and made defamatory statements. Mayor Mike Hansen of Newton stated that after reviewing the incident with the city administrator, police chief, command staff, and city attorney, they came to the conclusion that the traffic stop was handled in accordance with police departmental policy and according to the law. The city also claims that Galanakis used the notoriety created by false and defamatory claims to his advantage in order to profit. We have yet to learn who wins the case because it is still pending. Now, let's look at the case of Mariah Valenzuela, a woman from Phoenix, Arizona, who had been detained due to a false Dewey allegation. Police frequently go too far rather than attempting to defuse a situation. 23-year-old Mariah Valenzuela was pulled over for a minor traffic infraction one evening. According to body camera footage, the officer in question, Michael McGillis, refused to explain why he had stopped the unarmed woman. When she said she didn't have her ID on her, he tackled her and shoved her to the ground, breaking her legs, wrists, and head. Immediately following the incident, Valenzuela was taken to jail on suspicion of resisting arrest and creating a substantial risk of physical injury to an officer. Despite having a blood alcohol level that was much below the legal limit, she was also issued a DI. Valenzuela asked why he had stopped her after pulling into the nearest parking space in her car. When McGillis asked for her ID, Valenzuela calmly responded that she did not have it with her. This is captured on the body cam video. The next moment is captured on camera as McGillis grabs her and throws her to the ground while yelling at her to put her hands behind her back. Valenzuela yelled and sobbed after that, accusing McGillis of manhandling her and hurting her.
"Someone, please help! Sir, I did nothing wrong!"
she screams. While pleading with him to stop and inquiring as to why he was holding her, McGillis gave her the order to act like a young lady. "You said you had no ID," he shouted while holding her down. Valenzuela was arrested and given tickets for a number of infractions, such as driving left of center, failing to produce identification, disobeying an officer, and Dewey impaired to the slightest degree. The most serious charge was resisting arrest, which was a violent felony since it put the officer in danger of physical injury. Despite having consumed alcohol earlier in the day, Valenzuela insisted that she wasn't intoxicated at the time. She continued by saying she didn't believe she was in the wrong lane. James Palestini, Valenzuela's attorney, said that the arrest and subsequent accusations were unjustifiable, especially given that the whole conversation and its aftermath were recorded on camera. Attorneys for Valenzuela filed a civil action against McGillis, a phlebotomist with the DUI unit, alleging unjust arrest and incarceration. According to multiple defense lawyers who have worked with McGillis on DUI cases and have criticized his conduct in public and in court, he is the epitome of everything wrong with a portion of the police department. No claims of McGillis's misbehavior had been sustained by the police in the prior 5 years. The city usually attributes its high levels of police violence on an increase in threats and assaults from civilians, despite the fact that civil rights attorneys have pointed out that the department's data includes cases where officers assault people and then accuse them of assaulting officers. Police brutality and excessive use of force continue to be a thorn in the side of law enforcement. Victimized persons' lives have been fundamentally upended. In addition to the physical pain brought on by the abuse, they also have to deal with the psychological harm. The reason why the person who is supposed to protect them and keep them secure is suddenly turned against them must be processed and tried to be understood. There is no excuse for drunk driving, just as there is no room for police violence, so officers should be held to a higher standard than the average person. Speak out against this injustice and press for a criminal case to be brought against each participating police officer, including those who did nothing but stand by and observe this assault. They could be charged under the guilt by association law since their silence was deafening. Do you believe that modern technology such as dash cams and body cameras, can help to lessen the amount of false arrests. Please leave a comment below.